Today, I will be covering point number 3 and point number 4 of Dr. Deming's 14 points. The third point is cease dependence on inspection to achieve quality. Let's see how this works or doesn't work in the real world. Have you ever finished a meal at a restaurant only to have the manager or the waiter walk up and ask you, "How was your steak?" Whenever this happens, I always think it's a little late for that. If you want to deliver a quality steak, you don't have to wait until the customer's eaten part of it or all of it to inspect it. You need to build quality into the kitchen's preparation and the delivery process. For example, you should know ahead of time that for a certain cut of steak that has a certain thickness, you need to grill it at a certain temperature for a certain number of minutes, and to put that on a plate that has a certain degree of temperature, and then that should be delivered to the customer within a certain number of minutes. That's building quality into the process, not attempting to improve the steak by inspecting it after it has been delivered to the customer. Crazy. Dr. Deming's third point is simple. You cannot inspect quality into a product. It has to be there already. I should add, or a service. Here's a real-life example from my earlier days. When I became a general manager at a pharmaceutical distribution center, I inherited a safety net. They had a team of pickers who filled the orders, and they had a separate team of checkers who looked for mistakes made by the pickers. After observing this process for a while, I decided to walk the floor and ask some veteran checkers one question. How many mistakes did you find today? The answer was almost always none. So in essence, we were paying a full day's wages for a process that had very little value. My sales team panicked when I told them that I was going to eliminate the checkers. But the sky is falling never really happened. Why? Because we stopped planning for defects and we started trusting a sound process. Much later, we would improve this process further by introducing some electronic scanners. But Deming had taught me that divided responsibility is actually no responsibility. If a picker knows that a checker is behind them in the process, they think, oh, if I miss it, they'll catch it. If the checker thinks that the picker's been there, they know what they're doing, they're pretty good, they probably caught it, or they probably picked it right the first time. So when you eliminate the inspection, you return the responsibility to the person doing the work. Remember, divided responsibility is actually no responsibility. It's a leadership no-no. One other real-life example I have to share with you. This actually occurred a long time ago at a General Motors plant in Lordstown, Ohio. And while it was a long time ago, the General Motors folks knew of what Dr. Deming's teachings had done for the Japanese automobile industry. Nevertheless, the factory had a parking lot that held defects. The parking lot held 1,000 defects. And multiple times, I repeat, multiple times, they had to shut down the entire factory because the defect lot was full. That is the epitome of point number 3. If you're trying to fix the process by inspecting it at the end, the process is already broken. You're not improving quality, you're just documenting failure. Quality has to be built into the process, not inspected in later. To make sure you understand this point, and if you're thinking this doesn't apply to me because I don't manufacture anything, we provide a service, well, flash, this does apply to you. If you are in healthcare or education or banking or retail, it applies to you. If you measure the results of any type of activity, this point applies to you. You can't improve the quality of a product or a service by looking at the final results. That's your takeaway. So, hopefully now you'll stop inspecting to try to improve the quality. So let's move on to point number 4. Dr. Deming's fourth point is to end the practice of awarding business based on the price tag alone. This might require a total rethinking of value for you or your company, but don't think in terms of cheapest price, think in terms of cost per use. Here's a practical application of this on a personal level. I've always tried to stay healthy and active, but when my knees started bothering me at age 40, I traded my running for cycling. I knew I wanted to buy a bike that would last, so I bought a top-of-the-line Trek, which cost me, even back then, over $4,000. Some of my family members and friends thought I was crazy, nuts. But I probably rode that bike 150 to 170 times a year for over 20 years. At a minimum, that's 3,000 rides, which breaks down to $1.33 a ride. It was a bargain. I probably would have kept that bike forever, except I ran over it one day in the driveway. Anyway, the point is, the price of anything has no meaning without a measure of the quality being purchased. Imagine buying a steak for only $5.99 and then finding out you really couldn't eat it because it was too tough. In business, going with the lowest bidder creates 3 problems. Vendor proliferation. You end up with too many suppliers to manage. 2, inconsistency. When you jump from one vendor to another vendor to another vendor, this destroys any conformity of your products. And number 3, you end up in the spec trap. If you have specifications that the bidder must meet, you'll end up getting suppliers who just meet your specs. They don't exceed it. In my division, we applied this by striving to become a single source of pharmaceuticals for our hospital customers. We didn't just sell them pills. We offered a guaranteed 99% fill rate and an inventory software that helped the hospital save thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars in carrying costs. Because we built a relationship of trust, we even offered a free emergency 24/7 delivery. In return, the hospitals stopped price shopping and stayed loyal to us because we made their lives easier. We weren't just a vendor, we were a partner in their success. Deming often pointed to the Japanese model. The Japanese didn't just buy materials, they involved their vendors in their engineering and their design phase. Their suppliers were also chosen based upon their own efforts to become a quality supplier, meaning a company that was involved in continuous quality improvement. Deming advised reducing the number of suppliers as much as possible. When you partner with a single source, they should understand your future plans, which should help them better plan for their own future. They should be able to help you reduce costs, not by cutting corners, but by improving the process and the quality. The goal isn't the lowest bid, it's the lowest cost per use. We also did this to reduce the number of suppliers that we had for the reasons I've previously mentioned. Thank you for joining me today. If you have found these insights helpful, please hit the subscribe button. But before I go, allow me to share one very famous Deming one-liner again. By what method? Never accept a target without asking, by what method do you suggest we can reach this? So if you intend to cease dependence on inspection or to stop choosing the lowest bidder, how are you going to accomplish that? More importantly, how are the members of your staff who have been actually doing these activities to be guided or to be trained to act differently? That's a leadership question that you must answer. If you need help with this, please reach out and I will do my best to help you. And be sure to join me next time as we discuss points number 5 and points number 6, constant improvement and training.